Yesterday, I received a letter, and I would say that this letter plausibly changed the trajectory of this year, certainly for me. I don't know why people keep sending me letters, and I am going to tell you that I received this letter from a process server. Now, when you hear that you are getting a letter from a process server, you think one of two things in my world. You are being sued or you are being subpoenaed. It actually happens way more often than you realize. Sometimes you're being drafted into someone's lawsuit. They think that you have some information or some text messages, or otherwise you yourself are being sued, like when I was being sued by Kimberly Klacik for defamation, which eventually I won that after years. So it's not something that particularly unnerves me anymore, because typically sometimes you're getting drafted and there's no reason for you to be drafted. Your lawyer responds to it and it's completely over. But this one was indeed addressed to me. And what was strange about this is that when my lawyer was able to determine what it was and who it was from, this was atypical because it was not a lawsuit and it was not a subpoena, but it was a strongly worded letter. Essentially a legal threat. And people don't typically use process servers for legal threats. Even stranger was who it was coming from. It was coming from a law firm representing current sitting president, Emmanuel Macron, and his wife, Brigitte Macron. Okay? Like I said, this is insane. I don't think this has ever happened in the history of the world. Plausibly, you don't hear about a foreign leader currently sitting in power, sending around legal letters to people that are sitting in other countries, no matter what that person is saying. But it's going to get so much more crazier than that, okay? Because there were a lot of odd things about this letter. First and foremost, they strenuously requested that I not publicize it. They did not want me to publicize this letter all over it. This is not meant to be publicly disseminated. Okay, you have no legal right to tell somebody that they can't share a letter that they received. I'm sorry you sent it. I have a right to share it. And I'm going to tell you my suspicion about why it came across as they wanted to keep this rather hush-hush. But apart from asking me not to publicize it, they get into explaining to me how I am engaging in types of defamation. I'm going to show you this letter because the story behind it is even crazier, okay? So first and foremost, they are addressing statements, the bulk of this letter is addressing statements that I made last March. You're probably wondering in your head, why would they send this letter, which was addressed on December 3rd? That part is even crazier. But aside from telling me not to publicize it, they tell me right at the top that it's really none of my business whether or not Brigitte Macron is a man or a woman. Like, she doesn't have to answer that question. Here's what it said. I'm going to read you this verbatim. It said, this disinformation campaign is almost entirely based on a negative. Mrs. Macron has not provided definitive proof that she is a woman. Therefore, she must be a man. Not only is this an inherently unreliable basis for a claim, but also, and this is in bold, Mrs. Macron does not owe you proof that she is and always has been a woman, because frankly, it is none of your business. It is arrogant, self-centered, and truly offensive to believe that you are owed evidence of another's sex, gender identity, or sexual orientation. And additionally, it is defamatory to call someone a liar when they rightfully choose not to give in to your demands. Then it says, make no mistake, there is no shame in being LGBTQ+, but your accusations go beyond that. Okay. So right at the top there, again, what I've said to you that always struck me as odd about this story is this has been going on for approximately 10 years, okay? Now, if I'm the president and I'm dealing with a 10-year issue of people saying that my wife has a penis and I could just very easily debunk this, I'm sure as hell not going to pay lawyers overseas to send legal threats and legal letters that say, oh, okay, well, we're not going to answer the question, but we are going to send you a 100-page letter. It was 100 pages. Most of it was transcript. It really was like a 33-page letter. Most of it was transcript again. But the point being is that's a lot of effort for something that can be so easily debunked. So easily debunked. And I'm not the only journalist they've done this to. Okay. They're sending out letters, civil harassment, saying that it's causing them stress, it's causing them anxiety. Wouldn't you just answer the question at a certain point? Again, going with common sense. But it gets even more interesting. They also write in this letter that what they believe to be defamatory, among other things, is really just the implication to the French people that they're fraudulent and that they lie. So let me read that piece of this to you as well in this letter that I'm not supposed to publicize at all. These allegations are defamatory for multiple reasons. At the outset, it must be clear that there is nothing defamatory or reputationally damaging about being transgendered. But what is defamatory and highly damaging is attacking the integrity and the credibility of a president. I'm sorry, I just have to chuckle at that in general because I'm just thinking about President Trump and all the attacks. Like, what's defamatory is attacking the idea that Biden lies or that President Trump lies. You're not allowed to question their integrity in France. Like, this is just such a European letter in the sense that, like, they have no idea what free speech actually means of a president and Mrs. Macron with this vicious rumor that they are lying and manipulating the French people. One you knew was false at the time of publication. Okay, obviously, I do not think this is false at all. I'm going to tell you even more why I insist that there is a lot to the story. But just writing that seems very strange to me. They go on to speak about how the only proof that we have, which is completely untrue, is Chinese software that is comparing the faces of her and her alleged brother that doesn't like to make any appearances, which could easily just debunk this, right? And they're like, this is like crap, saying that they look alike. All siblings do look alike, or some siblings can look exactly alike. They say that that's completely normal. And then they provide even more proof that it's obvious that Brigitte is not a man. And the proof is that Brigitte says she's not a man. I'm not kidding. Here, this is the actual language of the letter. They write, beyond this, your conspiracy theory hinges on Mrs. Macron's family refusing to subject themselves to public scrutiny. Okay, you guys. So the reason that they're not answering this or responding to this is because they don't need to be publicly scrutinized. Like, why would a president and a first lady have to be publicly scrutinized? That just doesn't come with the territory when you live in a place like Europe and you don't have free speech. They can just hush you and sue you for speaking. Like I said, they are in for a rude awakening. This is America. And the next line really gets me because they say what should be enough evidence to disprove these falsehoods is that Mrs. Macron has denied them. President Macron has denied them, and Mrs. Macron's daughter, Tifone, has denied them. Okay, so that's how it works now in the court of law, guys. If I say no, absent any proof, you need to just accept that's the truth. Everybody always tells the truth all the time, especially in politics. Haven't we learned that? Nobody ever lies in politics. If they say something, it's definitely true. Trust me, bro. It's basically trust me, bro. Then it just gets even more bizarre because they're referring to T-shirts as a form of yellow journalism. So I sold this T-shirt mocking Brigitte Macron. It was a fake Time magazine cover and it said Man of the Year. And they view that as a form of yellow journalism. And that's interesting. So I'm going to read you that portion right now. It says, since then, you have continued to knowingly and intentionally peddle yellow journalism, defaming the Macrons. Indeed, you released another episode mentioning the conspiracy on June 26th. And then it says on July 7th, you brought these lies to the Jimmy Dore show. On July 8th, you again posted on X, this time with a photo of yourself in a T-shirt showcasing a fake Time magazine Man of the Year cover featuring Mrs. Macron, which has received 832,000 views and 3,000 retweets. And they actually put a picture of me wearing the shirt in this legal letter. And I wrote, I'm calling it now Time Man of the Year. It's an incredible shirt. Obviously, we now need to get this back up on sale. I don't know what is actionable in a parody shirt. I'm not sure where they're going with that, but they wanted to mention in a very strongly worded letter that this is a form of yellow journalism because there's obviously never been any T-shirts made about President Trump or Biden. You can't do that anymore. You're not allowed to sell Make Kamala Indian hats. Literally, what on earth were they thinking, including that? Okay. But here's where it gets really interesting. Okay. Then they insist on explaining to me that calling someone a rapist in France, they have different laws, and they insist that it's not statutory rape because Emmanuel was or would have been 15. They heavily imply this. This is the exact verbiage from the letter. It reads, Mrs. Macron did not statutorily rape President Macron. Let us be clear that the age of consent in France is 15. The two met and fell in love in 1993 when she was a drama teacher and he was 15 years old. When President Macron was 17, he vowed to marry Mrs. Macron, following through with his promise. They wed in 2007 when President Macron was 29 years old. Now, I want to first let you guys know that this is stunning because all throughout the time that President Macron was running, their story was that he was 17 years old. Okay. Now we have here writing that they're now adjusting that. All the publications said, oh, he was 17. It makes him sound like he's almost legal. And she was, however, I think they said she was 34. And one of the things that we told you was that this whole legend that they created in the legacy media was dishonest, and they allowed this to go on and go on until people started looking, independent journalists, and going, wait a second, Emmanuel Macron was not 15. And I also believe there's an interview where Emmanuel Macron states that he met her before he was 15 years old. But them implying that the age of consent in France is 15 is actually wholesale dishonesty, because what they're leaving out is the age of consent at that time when they were together. It was 15 only if the person that they had the affair with, the sexual affair with, was not someone who had any power or control. That is still the law in France today. Okay. So in order for it to be age of consent, it cannot be a teacher. It cannot be a therapist. It cannot be any person when you are a minor that has control over you. And as they mentioned in that same paragraph, Emmanuel Macron was the student of Brigitte Macron. So that would not have been allowed under the law. And this is something that we are happy to debate. In America, this would be statutory rape one way or the other. And in France, I'm pretty sure that still constitutes statutory rape. But we will allow you to respond to that in a more thorough manner, because now that we've established a connection, you have no excuse not to answer our pointed questions. We're going to go on and show you a little bit more of this letter, because this, to me, was the craziest part of the entire thing. So after saying, we don't have to tell you any proof, we don't have to show you any proof, trust me, bro, they then try to say that there have been some journalists that have introduced some evidence and you should have been paying attention, in the form of, I'm not kidding, this is coming from the president of France. They have submitted to us screenshots of an 8-year-old video that they allege proves that Jean-Michel Trogneau, so the theory is that Brigitte lived as Jean-Michel Trogneau, then took on the name of a sister named Brigitte and became Brigitte Trogneau later on in life. Okay, that is the theory. They are now saying that this journalist noticed that in the background of Emmanuel Macron's inauguration, the real Jean-Michel Trogneau was there. They sent us a YouTube link, I'm not kidding, of 2 different instances, and they claim that in the background, you see this little fat man? This is. I'm showing you. This is actually from a legal letter right here. They say that's Jean-Michel Trogneau. That's proof. Look, it's a still. They then sent us a YouTube link from the inauguration, and in the background, they're like, see, in the background, that's Jean-Michel Trogneau. We swear that's him. Hello, you are the alleged first lady, first man of France, and Emmanuel Macron, and you're telling me this is the evidence that you are supplying to journalists that this person exists? A link to a YouTube video that I'm going to show you right now. This is the link to the video. This is it, guys. This is proof.
Dans ces instants où tout...
Oh, was that not enough evidence for you to leave this entire theory alone? Like, they're not making a statement, but you should have caught in the background there. Here, we'll circle it for you. That's the real Jean-Michel Trogneau that they just won't do a press conference with and allow people to know where this person works, where this person exists. You should just know that right there debunks everything, because this channel, Edition Speciale, captured that in the background, and they said a journalist said that's definitely, some journalists said that's definitely him. So we're ignoring all the journalists who are saying that's not, and we have a name for that person that's in the background. I'm not going to tell you that today, but that's it. They sent this via a huge law firm as proof that the real Jean-Michel Trogneau does exist. The lingering man in the background, link on a YouTube video that's 8 years old. Shocking. They're also upset that we here in America felt the Olympics ceremony was satanic. I'm not allowed to say that. This is Europe. You don't have free speech. You can't say that the Olympics ceremony was very clearly satanic. Here I am saying it again. Wait till they find out that you don't get to tell a Christian what is and is not satanic because you are the president of France. You just don't get the right to do that. They wrote this in the letter. This is real. You pressed these lies harder after the Olympics opening ceremony in Paris. On July 29th, you released another episode titled The Olympics Exposed Brigitte Macron. As you know, the 2024 Olympics opening ceremony was widely misinterpreted as a reenactment of a Last Supper, but it was intended to represent the Feast of Dionysus. Nonetheless, you claimed that the satanic Olympic ceremony was really a ceremony to honor Brigitte Macron because she's transgendered. You posted on X that Brigitte is a transvestite and called it a demonic state. Now, this gets into